So imagine the scene. A business client of yours wants to put in a new web portal because they're launching a new marketing campaign, a new product, and it's going to be going live in 3 months. Now, you're a representative of the central technology team, and you're already thinking to yourself, well, this isn't such a hard sweat because we've already got free web platforms that they can take their pick from. So it's just a selection exercise, and the job is done. Now, you take down some requirements. You find actually there are some quite tricky elements to this new product launch, and you think to yourself, well, actually, there might not be a 100% fit on the existing free solutions. And do you go outside and find another one, solution number 4? So anyway, you take this requirement back to the central planning team, and you find out that actually they're going to be putting in place a new global platform for all of the business units, and then migrating all of those business units across onto this global platform, and it starts next year. And you're thinking to yourself, well, actually, I've got some pretty hefty requirements. We're going live in 3 months, and I can't go back to my business client and say they've got to wait at least a year before they can see their product being launched. So what do you do? Do you, on the one hand, say, look, to the client, well, you're just going to have to wait? 2, do you say, okay, well, let's try and find a compromise. Maybe we can use one of the existing platforms in the short term and then do a migration later? Or 3, do you let the business go rogue and they can source their own solution? I'm John Baxter, and this is a series of short articles called Tales from a Portfolio Manager. I help people in corporates plan technology across teams. So you could be somebody who has a portfolio of clients, projects, services, a backlog of features, and you have to manage them across a wide variety of teams in order to achieve any number of goals. So I've been doing these roles for over 25 years in many corporates, and I have a few tales to tell. So the best thing I can do for you is to encapsulate that experience into my own advisory, coaching, and training platform so that you have the opportunity to reflect on how you can solve some pretty challenging issues that you come across and be more successful in your role. So if you like these articles, you can subscribe for a free 2-week trial of the course contents that we offer. And after that, then there are a variety of training options to take your career forward. So back to the problem. Now, in order to answer this question 1, 2, and 3, do we go from one side of the equation to the other? Let's take a step back. And I'd like to illustrate this with another example. I got a phone call the other day from a recruitment pal of mine, and he said, John, I'd like to put you forward for this exciting role, doing exactly that, representing an IT function to a business unit as part of this global corporate company. I said, okay, I'm curious, let me know. And he says, well, look, I'll send you over a job description and you can have a look at it and tell me what you think. I went, all right. Now, I read the job description, and the first line was really, for me, encapsulates the challenge of being caught in the middle between, say, a business unit and a central technology function. Now, the line that stuck out for me was, this: key to success is the quality of your relationships with the client company and also aligning them to the activities with the central planning team. And you're thinking, okay, so what's the problem? Well, the context is really centralization. So after doing a bit of digging around on this company, I found out that they just embarked on this kind of standardization strategy. Obviously, a lot of organic growth. They wanted to reduce costs, and they wanted to be able to consolidate and refine the service offering. And obviously, trying to bring all of these different business units on board as part of the journey, really. So there's an element of persuasion, really, to sort of try and go to the business sponsor and say, well, look, we're offering a service, we're trying to reduce costs, and we're wondering whether you'd be interested, and what are your needs, and can we fit those needs into the roadmap that the central technology team are offering, and indeed, what is that roadmap? Can we find that balance? Now, the trouble is, in those kind of conversations, you're kind of, on the one hand, there's a prerequisite, you're going to have a good relationship, and on the other, you're going to have alignment on a roadmap at the end of the day. And unfortunately, both can not converge. You can probably have one thing or the other. And I'd put it to you that actually, business clients, they value the relationship in terms of what you can do for them. So if you're representing a technology function and they're saying, well, in fact, we're on a go slow, we can't see your request for another 18 months, it's not exactly going to do a lot for them. And you're not going to be, employee of the month if you're going to give them that kind of bad news, you see. So you can see where we're going with this. Now, if in that one statement you've got both to contend with, you're already seeing a potential failure mode. You're going to be on the hot seat already. So key to the issue around this is expectations on the role you're supposed to fulfill and whether you're enabled for success in executing that role. So a bit of a roundabout way to sort of say, well, look, if you're operating in that context, it can be easily, there may not be the opportunity for success to negotiate the conflicting requirements between two different parties. All right. So now, coming back to the specifics of this A, B, or C type question, how do you fulfill this web portal request? There's no right answer. I'll say straight off. So I'm sorry if you were hoping for this golden nugget of information or insight. It depends. And it depends on a lot of things, actually. It depends on the culture of the organization. It depends on the people involved. Depends on who's prepared to budge in terms of their agenda. It depends on really who has authority. It depends on how the different parties involved, whether they're seen as inferior or superior, whether they actually have a seat at the decision-making table or not. Are they told just what to do? You see, so you can have either teams being in inferior or superior positions, and you can be caught in the middle between this. You see, so it becomes a very difficult place to be, and quite political often. Now, the training program that I offer deals with a lot of these kind of aspects, and I try and clear the wood for the trees and give you the space to reflect on your own circumstances and how best you can succeed in them. So rather than list out all of the different course modules, I'm giving you the opportunity to sign up for this 2-week free trial. However, what I want to do today is give you some actionable steps that you can take away and start implementing immediately. So the key theme I want you to take away today is shared outcomes. So goals, objectives, we can argue about the nuances between all of them, but shared outcomes, I think, is something that you can start thinking about between the different parties involved, the business unit on the one hand, the central technology function on the other. Now, I suggest try and find what they have in common and write them down. And so let me give you an example. A shared outcome is not something like to reduce cost and grow revenue at the same time, because in quite a few contexts, that outcome may not be achievable. So you're lucky if you happen to come across the circumstance where it can be, you get all the points, but quite often, in many contexts, it's actually a conflict. You can either do one thing or the other. So let's change the dynamic a little bit. So we can move away from ensure that you've got a satisfied customer whilst adopting a global standard. That could be tough. That may actually, you might annoy quite a few of your customers by moving on to a global standard. Delays, you might see a reduction in features because of this new standard, might not, be so bespoke, for example. Anyway, let's focus on something where they could agree to something, like, for example, to jointly find solutions that can enable both sales growth and cost reduction at the same time. Okay, now we can commit to that, right? We're going to all collectively endeavor, put some effort in and try and find something that can work. Try to find something, okay? Another example would be to find a short-term solution that to meet the imperative operational requirements in this year, and then migrate to a longer-term solution next year. That can be negotiated and agreed. So that's an example of a shared outcome. And the next step 2, will be to discuss those shared outcomes. I mean, obviously, there's going to be more than one, right? But the point is this: you've got to start discussing with both counterparties. The best case scenario is you get them both into the room at the same time and negotiate. You facilitate the conversation and say, well, look, on the one hand, we've got this complex problem here, but it'd be great that if we use this as a case study, we can find a solution and adopt the principles that we find from working together on this, a solution that we can a way of working that can last for the long term. So you've got them in the room, we've had that conversation, you've got some agreement, great. The third step is, well, what if we do nothing, right? They need to recognize that without either party acknowledging or agreeing to these outcomes, then it becomes very difficult to find an equitable solution for all concerned. You're either compromising too much, or you're having to give ground on one side of the fence to the other so that you're seen by the other party as playing for the other team. So it's trying to get the balance, or being pig in the middle, may be too difficult, you see. And they need to recognize that, because there's an implicit assumption that by magic, this person who's having to negotiate between two parties can deliver that. They can't. And they all need to work together collectively to do so. And if once you've got those outcomes established, the next time you're caught in a tricky dilemma like this, the first thing you can do is remind people of those outcomes. And that helps frame the context of the conversation, moves away from a potential political argument, whose team are you on, and then you can start focusing on how you achieve those shared outcomes. So stay tuned for an episode of Tales from a Portfolio Manager. Thank you.
This article is sponsored by sdbp.institute, an online training and coaching platform that enables participants to become strategic digital business partners. In just 4 months, with a 2 to 3 hour a week commitment, teams and individuals can demonstrate value and gain confidence through practicing the tools and techniques that help people collaborate on technology roadmaps across teams. Whilst giving a foundation understanding of relationships, customer value and alignment, the courses can help participants drive results for themselves, their teams and their organisation. One client said, "Our stakeholders have started to trust us more based on better expectation management and small incremental improvements through applying the principles and approaches taught in the course. It gave fantastic insight. Many organisations and individuals have benefited from the instruction given on our platform, so you can go to sdbp.institute and see how you and your team can gain a certificate in Strategic Digital Business Partnering, or contact us for bespoke corporate training."